Hello again, everyone. This is Genaro. We are going to start with the webinar now. Thank you for joining. If you can hear me all right, if you cannot, please say so in the chat. I hope you can hear me okay. So before starting with the content, and I promise we'll go to the content very quickly, I just want to give you a quick, very quick intro of who we are and what do we do so that we put this content in context. So the webinar today is about exploring the GSMA Coverage Maps Platform. So these are maps that we created to help our members of the GSMA. So as you already probably know, the GSMA is the trade association that represents mobile operators worldwide. There are about 800 operators who are members to our organization and other 300 companies that belong to the mobile ecosystem. I personally sit in a department that is called Mobile for Development. At Mobile for Development, we use mobile technologies for different development purposes, and we try to support the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. So we have a number of programs that look at the climate, assistive technologies, utilities. We talk about digital inclusion, connecting women, digital identity, etc. So I won't go over the different programs. I invite you to go into our webpage if you are interested in some of these topics. I personally sit in the Connected Society program. What we do in Connected Society is that we work for digital inclusion. So our remit is how to connect the unconnected. We work mainly in sub-Saharan Africa, but also in Asia and a little bit in Latin America. So our purpose is to work with our members and with the mobile ecosystem to try to bring mobile technologies to everyone and connecting them for a better future. So this was the small intro. So let's go into the topic of today. So we are going to discuss the online mobile platform that we created recently. So why did we create these coverage maps? First, because we identified a problem. We've been running connectivity projects for about 3 years now. And what we observed is that there was a lack of reliable connectivity data. And this had a negative effect in 3 main parts. The first one was in investment in mobile infrastructure. So what we saw is that mobile operators did not have a reliable data that they could use to go and invest in those most remote areas, which was affecting the level of coverage that we were observing in these areas. The second one was for businesses that rely on connectivity to provide their services. So here is a number of businesses, including startups, that require this connectivity as a channel to deliver their services. So by not knowing where connectivity was provided, they could not deliver this service in remote areas. And finally, there was a lack of information for governments who also want to provide e-government services in these remote and rural areas, and they were lacking this information to know who they could reach and increase the coverage of those services. At the same time, there was an opportunity. This opportunity comes from digital inclusion becoming a priority in the development agenda for operators, but also for other organizations. And this was in conjunction with new available data sets that became available recently that allow us, for example, population distribution data sets that we will discuss in a second, and which allow to then use all this data to create more data-driven decision-making. So our approach at the GSMA was to collect primary data from our members. As you know, the GSMA is a neutral entity towards our members, so we were in a good position to collect primary data from our members and be able to give back an extensive coverage footprint for all of our members. And at the same time, what we wanted is that to provide this data in a transparent and free way for everyone, so that we could solve the problem not only for our members, but also for other actors in the mobile ecosystem, as we discussed before. So this is why we decided to create the maps. So what are these coverage mapping platform? So the platform is available online. And as I said, this is freely available for everyone to visit. You can just go to the URL mobilecoveragemaps.com. And actually, in a second, I will give you a small tour of what you can do with this tool. So what are the principles? First is we wanted to provide high granularity connectivity data. And this part on high granularity is very important because, as I will show you later, we've seen that there is no low-hanging fruit anymore in terms of connectivity. Mobile operators have been quite effective at identifying uncovered areas that are profitable. So if we want to go beyond and cover really those remaining areas, we need to have very good data with very high granularity. So this was really something very important for us. The second principle of the platform is that it's publicly and freely available. The third principle is that we wanted to make it an interactive tool that could be used by non-experts. This is very important because, as I said, although the main priority of this platform was to inform investment for mobile operators, we knew that this information was valuable for other organizations. So we wanted to make it available in a way that could be used by people that do not belong necessarily to the technical side of the mobile industry. The primary objective of the tool is to drive investment in to cover the uncovered, but as you will see, this information can be used for many other purposes, and I will give you a couple of examples later on. So without further ado, let me give you an overview, a live demo of what the tool looks like and how you can use it. So bear with me for a second. So if you go to mobilecoveragemaps.com, this is the online platform that you will get. So as you will see, we have 8 countries that we have mapped so far, and we have a plan to increase the number of countries to cover most of sub-Saharan Africa in the next couple of years. We have included a tutorial video that you can access in the web page, and how-to guides both in English and in French. So I encourage you, if you share this link with someone, they can just look at the video, and in the video they will see the main functionalities and how to use these maps for their own purposes. So let me give you an overview for one of the countries. Let's take Ghana, for example. So this is the coverage for Ghana. As you see in violet, you will see the coverage. The first thing that you will notice is that we do not say explicitly which operator is covering what part of the country. So what we display is the combined coverage for all of the operators. And this is for one simple reason, is because what we care about is where are they uncovered? They are not covered by any of the operators. And by doing this, we can also help them preserve their confidentiality of the data while being as transparent as possible on which areas are covered. So what I show you here is the 2G coverage, but we also then have the 3G, which in the case of Ghana is quite good as well. And we have the 4G, which as for many countries, focuses more on urban or dense urban areas. Now let's go back to 2G. And what I want to show you is a bit the granularity of the data. And this is something that I was telling you at the beginning. It is really important for us, and we work a lot with this data to try to help operators identify uncovered areas. And we know that you really need granular data if you want to be relevant in your analysis and in the findings that you can get to inform business models. So let me zoom in, and the first thing that you will see is that, for example, in this area we have the 2G coverage, and you will see that the coverage is patchy, and this is of course because what you are seeing here is the model coverage using a standard propagation model, which then takes into account the terrain and the vegetation on the ground. So of course, we will have a cell site in the middle, but then as we go farther from the cell site, we will have obstacles or other vegetation that would have impacts on how the signal is propagated, so that the coverage won't be uniform across the area. Now, let me show you the other very important data set that we combine it with. So I'm just changing the background to black, so you can see all these small dots that you can see in the background, these yellow dots. All of these are population settlements. So this population distribution data set comes from a work that has been done by Facebook in collaboration with Columbia University, where they publish this data set that is publicly available, and they use machine learning algorithms, and they applied that to high-resolution satellite imagery to detect where human settlements are located and estimate the population by counting the number of rooftops that they can see in those images. So let me zoom in this area to give you an idea of how granular is this population data combined with the coverage data. So what we did, and there are other data sets that we use, but these are the two most important ones. And let me just make a demonstration with these two data sets, because by combining these two high resolution data sets, we can see which villages or small cities or even farms are within or outside of mobile coverage. And what we try to do is to allow the user to interact with these two data sets to see what is the connectivity status of these areas. So let me show you. If on the left-hand side you will see all the tools that are available to you. So for example, if we use the stats tool and we click on any of the settlements that we see, so for example this one, there will be a banner on the left that will show the coverage by technology. So since we click on this small one in the center, we can see that 100% of the population is covered in 2G, 100% in 3G, but 0% in 4G. The population of this settlement is around 2,900. Okay, and then we provide other estimation of population in terms of what is the rate of the population under 15 years old, the poverty rate, etc. Now, if we were to click in a settlement that is outside coverage, for example, this one here, we'll see that it has a population of 2,158 people, and none of them are covered in 2G, 3G, or 4G. Okay, so this is just to give you a sense of the granularity of the data that we are trying to achieve for all of our maps. Now, as I said, the main purpose of this tool is to help find where are the uncovered populations and help mobile operators invest to cover them. So what we did is to help this purpose is try, for example, to look in the entire map, where are these populations? So for that, we can use the filtering tool. So for example, we can say, find all of the populations which are not covered by a 2G network, for example, and which have a population between 1,000 and let's say 3,000 people. If we apply this filter, then we will find all of the population settlements that fall within this category. So for example, there is one here, and we can see that it has a population of 2,606 people, and it's outside of coverage. Okay. So the idea is that then a mobile operator or an infrastructure provider would be able to target this settlement and bring coverage if they can find a suitable business case to do so. Now, another tool that then comes to complement this filtering tool is what we call the virtual cell. The virtual cell, what tries to do is to estimate what would be the coverage if we were to deploy a site in a given area. So as you see, we have 3 different sizes. So we have a 10-kilometer radius, 3-kilometer radius, and 1-kilometer radius. So let's do the test with a 3-kilometer radius site. So we can move this site around and we can place it wherever we want. So for example, if we say we deploy a site here that has a 3-kilometer radius, we see that the total coverage would be around 4,351 people. So the idea behind this tool is to, again, help operators find what would be the addressable market or the population covered if they were to deploy a site in this area. Now, even though the main purpose of this virtual cell was to help operators with this, this can be extended for other type of services. So for example, if we were to say I'm installing a clinic in this area, and I consider that the service that would be provided by this clinic, meaning that people that can walk this distance would be 3 kilometers or 1 kilometer, this tool would also allow to kind of estimate what would be, let's say, the population addressed by this service. So we've seen other uses for this tool for organizations that have nothing to do with connectivity or the mobile ecosystem in particular. There's a number of other tools available. I will encourage you to visit the website and look at them. For example, to measuring distance or measuring the closest place of connectivity. We also include other data sets. So for example, we include the refugee camps or education facilities, and we can know then what is the connectivity status of these facilities. So for example, schools, we can click on the school and then we know if they are covered in 2G, 3G, or 4G. So let me go back to the main web page. So these functionalities are all available for all of the 8 countries that we have mapped so far. And as I said, we are looking into extending the number of maps to cover most of sub-Saharan Africa in the next couple of years, but then also other parts of the world that where there's a coverage gap that we would like to help our members to close. So let me go back to the presentation to show you the kind of applications that either we use or that we've seen other organizations using for this data. So first, some of the insights that we have derived from this data were quite shocking and quite important for us in terms of understanding really in detail the state of connectivity in some countries. So for example, in Liberia, when we analyze it, we see the coverage in Liberia in percentage is not that high. But what we saw is that there's no low-hanging fruit of uncovered areas that remain in the country. What this means is that all of the sites, mobile sites or mobile or areas that offered enough commercial interest for operators to be covered, they are already covered, right? So in other words, there is no real underinvestment because operators are covering all of what they should be covering based on their own um, commercial interest. We estimated the underinvestment in Liberia to be around 1 or 2%, which is quite low, right? If we think it of kind of the limits of the market, operators are really almost there. And we consider that this 1 to 3% in other markets, well, this is because of the lack of this kind of information that we are providing now. So our aim is that by creating these maps and by helping them locate these uncovered areas, they will be able to close this 2 or 3% gap in the coming years. Another important finding was that, for example, 94% of the settlements with population about 4,000 are already covered, right? But then at the same time, mobile sites in Liberia that have less than 8,000 people are not profitable to be covered. So this shows kind of the challenge that remains for the mobile industry in general to be able to come up with a sustainable business model to be able to extend that coverage even further, especially taking into account that the uncovered population in Liberia lives in around 16,000 human settlements that average around 80 people each, right? So this is just to give you an idea, and it was quite surprising for us to see that really, if we want to go and extend coverage more than what we see today, we need to really work out the economics to decrease the cost substantially um, to have a profitable business model and allow operators to invest sustainably for the coming years. So let me give you 3 real-life examples of how the coverage maps are driving impact. The first one will be about the kind of work that we are doing with our members and try to helping them make those good decisions in terms of investment. And then we discuss 2 more that are from external organizations where we provided support using this data for development purposes. One was about connectivity of the schools in DRC, and the second one about a digital identity project with the World Bank in Nigeria. So in the way we approach this with our members is that once we have the connectivity status of the country, meaning that we know which are the places that are covered, where are the uncovered areas, we can try to leverage all this very detailed data for example, modeling what an optimal net would be. So we have created a couple of algorithms that take into account the population distribution, but also the characteristic of mobile sites. So let's say, for example, we can take a very big site that has a very high cost in both the capital expenditure and operational expenditure. But we can also include more innovative technologies that have smaller sites with, of course, a smaller radius, but also smaller cost overall. So we can create a number of scenarios, but at the end, what we can have is a simulation of what an optimal network would be and what would be the cost required to deploy it. And we are able to identify as well if some of these sites will require some sort of subsidy that could come either from universal service funds or other preferential loans or other DFIs, development financial institutions that could provide some support to deploy this infrastructure. So this is something, this is kind of the primary objective of why we do this. And this is the type of data-driven decision making that we are trying to include in the way that we support our members to drive coverage in these very remote areas. Now, changing a little bit, kind of more uses that we did not anticipate it at the beginning, but that we are very keen to support and that have a positive impact because we enable the work of other organizations. So this is the case, for example, of UNICEF in DRC. So UNICEF, they had a project in which they were mapping all of the schools in the country, trying to locate. They did very detailed surveys of where the schools were. And what they were trying to accomplish is to connect all of the schools, meaning to provide broadband connection to all of them. But what they needed to do before was to assess the connectivity status of all of them. So by working with them, we were able to use our connectivity data in DRC to provide them with the coverage status for each in terms of the 2G, 3G, and 4G connectivity. And based on this, they were able to assess what was the already existing connectivity and be able to focus their efforts on the schools that required more attention. Finally, the last example is work that we were supporting from the World Bank. So the World Bank was designing or is designing a digital identification project in Nigeria. And they are trying to find what is the right strategy in terms of delivering that digital identification, how, if they want to go through the agents on the ground, or if they want to go through more other type of existing infrastructure. So what they wanted to know is which were the villages that had already 3G coverage, and if they would be able to deploy kind of an over-the-air solution for digital identification. So they provided us with a list of points that they were considering for this rollout, and we helped them assess if that would be feasible, if they had enough kind of a speed in the sense of having 3G or 4G connection to be able to deliver that program. So this is an ongoing work that the World Bank is doing, and that we are really happy to support. So this is with this, I'm going to stop here, and if you have any questions, if you can put them in the chat, I will be very happy to go over those and provide some answers. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. So let me go through them. One of them is about the pipeline of countries that we are going to consider. So we are currently assessing what would be the priority, but we are pretty much looking into sub-Saharan Africa at the moment. We are looking to probably Malawi, Sierra Leone, DRC, and Benin. So that would be the first countries that we would really like to work on. But as I said, in the next couple of years, we are really looking to map all of sub-Saharan Africa. We have another question in terms of how do we capture the primary data? And yeah, this is a very good question, and this is kind of the difference of this tool as compared to other tools that are in the market, which is that what we do is we collect data from mobile operators directly. But what we do is that we do not collect, let's say, the coverage footprint that they would provide. What we collect is the location of all of the mobile sites that they have and their technical characteristics. So we would collect things like what is the height of the antenna, what is the spectrum used in that site, where are the antennas pointing to. So this kind of standard technical data that allow us to then model using a standard propagation model what would be the coverage provided by each site, and then we combined all of these the coverage provided by each site, we combine it, and then we get the aggregate coverage at the country level. So this is something that is very important for us. This means that we can progress in, it's quite a slow process because we need to go and collect all this data from all of the operators. But as I said at the beginning, we believe is the only way to provide high granularity data, which is required if we want to have accurate and pertinent insights that would be actually useful and actionable to bring coverage. So then we have another question regarding the coverage provided by individual operators. So the question is, can we provide in the tool disaggregated coverage by each of our members, or the operators that are in that market? The short answer is at the moment we cannot, and this is not for specifically for a technical reason, but is more for a confidentiality reason. What we are trying to achieve with this tool is to provide the aggregate coverage and provide which are the areas that are not covered by anyone. And by doing so, we incentivize investment. Providing the coverage by each individual operator would have some impact in terms of the competition in the market, and we are trying to avoid that. So we are trying to really focus our efforts in bringing coverage to uncovered areas. So please keep sending your questions. We have two more. So the first one is on how often we refresh the coverage maps. So this is a very good question. At the moment, the platform is in beta version. What it means is that we are testing how this approach can have tangible impact in terms of driving investment. So we have created a first map for every country. If we consider that, if we see that actually we observe the impact that we were hoping to get, then we will continue this effort, and we will try to refresh the maps at least every 2 years. And this is important because operators will be, I mean, the networks are live. There will be more deployments. There will be, refarming of a spectrum that allows to upgrade 2G sites into 3G sites, and this is important to reflect the reality on the ground. So we will plan to upgrade that or refresh that at least every 2 years, hopefully every year. but this is something that we are currently studying based on the results that we will get in this first batch of countries. We have another question in terms of collecting the data, and if we face challenges to collect the data from mobile operators, or if we go through regulators to collect this data. The answer is yes. Collecting the data is a difficult process. This is because, as I said, this is very granular data that it's very important for operators, that it has some, which they have some concerns in terms of the confidentiality and in terms of the consequences that they could have for their competitive advantage. So it is normal that they have concerns in sharing this data. But at the same time, they are, quite keen to be able to be more transparent and to have a more, showcase the kind of investment that they have, especially in rural areas. So by providing them guarantees, for example, in showcasing the aggregated coverage, they are much more comfortable in sharing this data and be able to help in terms of the transparency without necessarily exposing their own coverage and have some negative competition concerns. So we don't go through the regulator because the GSMA, we believe that if we want to have a good tool, we need the best possible data. We need the very high resolution data, and this will only be shared in the best form if it's shared directly by the operators. So we try to go directly to our members and collect the data directly from them. We have another question concerning if the data can be downloaded in GIS format. As of now, the data cannot be downloaded, so it can be visualized using the platform, but it cannot be downloaded, and this is for the same kind of concerns that I was just mentioning before. We try to motivate operators to provide their best possible data, and one of the kind of reassurances that we need to provide is that this data will be kept in a safe place. We're able to share as much as possible, but without sharing the raw data behind it. However, we know how useful this data is, and if you have specific projects that you would like to put forward to us, in which we could provide some specific analysis, please send us an email, and we can assess if we can have a ad hoc collaboration with you and try to provide as much insights as possible. But as of now, the data is cannot be downloaded from the platform. We have another question in terms of the coverage map for Rwanda. So Rwanda has already been mapped. We did that end of last year, so the map is already in the platform. So please, if you want to look at Rwanda, just go on the maps and on the platform, and you will find the map there up to date. So please keep sending your questions before we wrap up. We have another question in terms of when will Central Africa will be available. So as I said, we are trying to do sub-Saharan Africa within the next couple of years. So Central Africa is not currently in the pipeline, but we should be able to map it within the next couple of years. A lot of you received the invitation for this webinar because you register in our website. So actually in the platform itself. If you have not, you can do this using this register button in the platform itself. So you can go there and you can fill this form, and we will be able to keep you up to date in the publication of new countries or any studies or insights that would come up from this research. So please register if you are interested in us keeping you updated. Okay, I don't see any more questions on the chat. So if you have any further questions, please reach out to us by email. You can have the email in the platform of our team, connectsociety@gsma.com. So we are going to wrap up here. Please keep in touch. We will send you more updates using the list of registration that I just showed you. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you find this useful. And if you have any feedback in terms of functionalities or countries or other projects that you think this would be useful for you, please reach out to us. Thank you very much for coming, and see you soon.